Hello, hello, hello. So glad you're here today. Welcome, my eighth graders, and you know who you are. So glad you're here today. All right, today we're talking about poetry, repetition as a literary tool. So let's get started. All right, today's warm up is why do we use repetition in poems and speeches? Raise your hand to use a microphone or write it in the chat box. Go ahead and set your timer for 2 minutes. Go ahead and share out. Notice the picture, the repetition of the coffee cups, and you see the shadows. Notice the shadows. They're not exactly the same. That's one of the things I love about art and repetition is trying to find the differences in the repetition. It may look the same, but look for the little nuances. All right. So, why do we use repetition in poems and speeches? If you don't know, it's okay. Tell me in the message box you don't know. You can also private message me that you don't know. But I think you'll learn more today as we talk about repetition and poetry. All right. All right, so today we're talking, our agenda is the warm up, which we did. Woo woo, good job. Also, our expectations, state standards, the weekend statement, an introduction to repetition, and the breakout room activities. Dee, 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 dee. All right, so today our expectations, as in always, are attend class every time, participate, and encourage one another. We want to encourage one another and this to be a safe place for all of us to share. The world is definitely tough enough. So we want to be kind to one another and encouraging so that we'll be able to take more risk with our writing and dig deep and share from our thoughts and our dreams from within. All right. Our beliefs statement. I love this picture of the little puppies. All right. So usually I have a student read the belief statement, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for you today. Beliefs. I am extraordinary. I matter. I am loved. I will learn something every day, even if it's just a little bit. If I don't know something or didn't learn something, it's not my fault. My learning coach, my family, my teacher, and I are a team. Saying what I feel and think and asking questions creates connections, and connections are life. My teachers will never give up on me because they care about me. Yes, we care about you. And I just want you to look at this picture, look at the puppies, repetition of puppies on each step, or repetition of the stairs. Notice some puppies are awake, some puppies are sleeping. All right. And then we have a repetition of the stairs in this slide as well. And then you'll notice the pumpkins. They are by one of my favorite artists from Japan, Yasumi Kasuma. And she is a brilliant artist, an artist of repetition, and also known for her polka dots. All right, so the standards focus today is students will be able to demonstrate an understanding of the following. Engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions, one-on-one, in groups, and teacher-led, with diverse partners on grade 8 topics, texts, and issues, building on others' ideas and expressing their own clearly. Also, to use precise words and phrases, relevant descriptive details, and sensory language to capture the action and convey experiences and events. All right, so here's our we can statement today. I love this room. Yosemi Kasuma is the artist who did this. She does an infinity room. They are installations with light orbs repeating and mirrors, so it looks like the space goes on to infinity forever. All right, usually I get a student to read this, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for you today. We can write a poem with repetition. Yes, we can. All right, I forgot I put this picture up there. This is Mr. Bill Murray and the groundhog. I don't remember his name. But anyways, so it's from one of my very favorite movies called Groundhog's Day. And it is so funny because it's a movie about repetition, living the same day over and over and over again. And kind of like right now, while we're dealing with this pandemic, it might feel a little bit like Groundhog's Day. We wake up and we're like, this seems like the same day. What day of the week is it? So, I wanted to share that with you. And also, the groundhog is symbolic of the winter. And when will the winter end? When will the spring begin? And so it's kind of like a symbolism for when will the pandemic end? All right. So speaking of art and life, usually there's this saying that art imitates life, but the writer Oscar Wilde said, "Life imitates art more than art imitates life," and I thought that was a really interesting quote, so I wanted to share it with you. All right, here's our awesome artist, Yayo. Yayo. I'm working on my pronunciation. Yayo Kasuma. Yayo Kasuma. And I love her artwork. She is a master of repetition and she is such a brilliant artist. I love how she does the tentacles with the little dots everywhere. Master of Polka Dots. I did a pumpkin this year inspired by her work, and it is so relaxing to try to get those circles one after another just right. So there's relaxation and repetition. There's comfort and repetition as well. All right, so I want to talk about Mr. Andy Warhol as well. You can't talk about repetition without talking about Andy Warhol. I love his artwork, and I love that he got people to think about popular items in a new way. He is a master and grandfather of pop art. Um, so he did the Campbell soup cans. You see the black bean, the chicken noodle, the vegetable, the beef, the green pea, the tomato, the onion, etc. And although they're all repetition of the same type of soup can, the same label, they all have different flavors. So that's another thing I want you to learn about repetition. And in poetry, there's also a repetition of sound patterns. And sometimes you'll have rhyme and then there's slant rhyme. So it's not exactly an identical repetition, but it's similar. We'll go on to slant rhyme at another time, but I just wanted to kind of plant that seed for you. All right, repetition. Repetition is the repeating of sounds, words, and/or phrases in a work of poetry. This adds this adds emphasis, which underscores significance. Repetition also provides rhythm, pacing, and musicality to a poem. All right, here's Mr. Rene Magritte. He uses repetition of images, clouds, men in hats, and apples. This can also connect with our symbolism unit that we did last week. In that, a lot of poets, just like visual artists, will often repeat symbolism throughout their poetry. In their poetry books, throughout their poetry series, a lot of repetition and symbolism that it's speaks to the poet themselves, but also that they want to share with the world. A lot of repetition. All right. Uh, here's another one that I forgot that I put in there. This is one of my pictures. For one of my hobbies, I like to take pictures and do photography and then mix it up. And so this was taken in Big Sur, California. We were at a little restaurant, deli restaurant, and there was a gallery underneath the restaurant. And there were these big bright umbrellas, and they're actually red umbrellas, and then the blue sky, and it was really beautiful. Well, I wanted to change up the picture just a little bit. So what I started doing is kind of playing with the different layers, and I kind of layered it to have more repetition. And then I also added some digital paint and changed up the colors. And then I was like, wow, that's kind of unique. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to make a poem about it. So here's my poem. It's called Glitches. Sometimes the sky turns technicolor. Oops, let me start again. Glitches. Sometimes the sky turns technicolor right before the rain. Each pixelated plop, a square raindrop, lands on rows of black umbrellas. By Mrs. Gilly, me. So I wanted to share that with you. Sometimes, like when I'm sleeping, a poetry idea will come into my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have my little idea book right beside my on my nightstand, and I'll write down the ideas because I'm like, this poem is waking me up. I have to write it down and then I can go back to sleep. All right. So elements of voice. All right, so elements of voice are tone, diction, syntax, and audience. We talked a little bit about tone. We talked a little bit about diction. We're going to continue on with diction today, and then in the upcoming weeks, we'll talk about syntax and audience. All right, can you find our artist? Yosima? Yosima? Can you find her? Where is she at? All right, diction. The vocabulary or phrasing of a poem. Word choice, the way words are selected. So notice the pumpkin, and that's one of her trademark symbols. And the repetition of the dots, it seems like the dots take over the room. It's on her dress. Repetition. All right. I want to talk about another poetry technique and share that with you. It's called anaphoria. It's Greek for to carry up or back, a poetry technique in which the same word or phrases are repeated. And this is another poem by Marguerite, and it is La Grande Famille, circa 1963. And here we have the clouds again, his repetition of symbols. All right. Repetition is a very important part of speeches as well. It's a very important part of our speeches. And recently, you guys have been reading Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech in your main classes. So I want to connect it with our poetry lesson as well. So I'm going to read a little part of his speech and share that with you. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream. Ooh, I'm getting a little teary-eyed. I have a dream. The repetition underscores the importance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. And he's giving that speech still. That speech is so poignant every day, even today. All right, moving on. So, the 4 types of writing we have expository, news, textbooks, instruction materials. Descriptive writing is our journals, poems, and nature writing. Then we have narrative writing, which are screenplays, biographies, mythology, and persuasive, which are academic papers, editorial papers, and speeches. Persuasive writing, you're trying to get someone to take action. Action. And I would say that also poetries can also be a form of persuasive writing, and that they inspire us to look within and to see things that we may not ordinarily see, to take action. All right, so I want to talk about rhetoric today. Rhetoric is the art of speaking and writing effectively. Be intentional with your poetry. Be intentional every day, mindful. All right. This one's called The False Mirror by Renee Marguerite again, circa 1929. Oh, why do I have 1966? I have to look that up again. I thought it was, okay, well, we'll look that up later. Anyways, so, and then I wanted to share a little bit of my technique for being, when I write my poems, and if I'm like have writer's block or whatever. So what I do is I carry a thesaurus, and I also will have my online thesaurus too. And I go to usually thesaurus.com, and you plug in your word that you want to, your idea that you want to write about, and then it will come up with synonyms for that word. For example, for the word cloudy, you'll see synonyms of dark, dense, dim, dismal, dull, foggy, gloomy, misty, muddy, murky, opaque, overcast, blurred, confused. I love the word nebulous. So you get all these words that are connected with that. A long time ago, before they had smartphones, etc., I used to carry around a little thesaurus in my backpack. And then when I take my poetry classes, I could read it while I'm waiting in line, and read and study the words and be inspired even more. So thesauruses are a really important tool for poets. And I'm going to share more about how to use a thesaurus at another time, the actual book of a thesaurus. But for now, if you'd like to go on to thesaurus.com, that's a free website for you. All right, so here are some of the breakout room activities. We have the rainbow of participation. Our goal is to see a rainbow of everyone's participation. You will be sent to a breakout room in a small group. As soon as you get to your breakout room, please follow these steps. You're going to click on a text tool and change your font to show any color that you'd like besides white or black. Use your new font color to type your name in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Participate on the whiteboard using the same font color or drawing ink to answer the questions. It is super duper important that you keep the same color, because it's exactly how I will be measuring your participation, and part of your grade is a big grade is your participation. But more importantly, when you participate, you're learning, you're growing. And so and then that helps me to see how I can help support you as well. All right, so I'm going to read a poem, and then we're going to go into our breakout room activities, and I'll share more about that with you. Here's a poem by Terry Burchett, Never Stop Being You. Never stop caring about the little things in life. Never stop dreaming, and don't give in to strife. Never stop wondering, are we on our own? Never stop thinking, has your spirituality grown? Never stop building bridges that lead to better tomorrows. Never stop trying, and don't give in to sorrow. Never stop feeling amazed at the beauty that surrounds you. Never stop hearing the music, and don't give in to the blues. Never stop pushing away negative thoughts that make you feel sad. Never stop looking at all the miracles we've had. Never stop loving the ones you hold dear. Never stop giving, and don't give in to fear. Never stop smiling, but look forward to each new day. Never stop shining in your own special way. Never forget all the storms will clear. Remember, brighter tomorrows are always near. All right. So your rainbow participation, you have a graphic organizer here. How does this poem relate to you? What kind of connections do you make? What does it make you think of, feel? That is text to self. Then you'll see text to text. Does it remind you of another poem? Does it remind you of another story, a news article? Um, uh, what does it remind you of? Another text, another story. Text to world, how does it remind you of the things that are going on in the world around us? So you're going to share that out as well. And text to art, I love connecting text stories with art. So I want you to think of an art piece, or so it can even be something that you've drawn or would like to draw. So I want you to imagine what you draw to respond to that poem. All right, then we have, if you'd like to write a poem using the tool of repetition, inspired by Terry Burchett's poem, Never Stop Being You, you're each gonna have a box where you can write your poem, and it's a rainbow of participation. Also, if you'd like to write a poem using the tool of repetition, inspired by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. Repetition. So you have a choice of activities that you can choose from. All right, here's an example from one of my classes, a rainbow of participation. All right, so your ticket out the door. Today went quickly, didn't it? All right, so your ticket out the door is to write one thing you learned about repetition in the chat box today. Go ahead and put it in the chat box. Repetition. Look at all those coffee cups. Repetition. Also, stick around if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help you. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Do something kind for your families today. Take care. Bye-bye.